Hey guys, welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. This is Kneon. We're going to talk about Disney and their motion picture empire and how it looks like layoffs are coming. Last week we talked about Disney, how they're laying off in the parks, they were furloughing employees, and it looks like they're going to be furloughing their movie employees too, and that includes all of their divisions. So it's getting pretty serious, right? Disney is looking to cut cash as they are hemorrhaging money because their theme parks have been closed for over a month now, or almost a month here in the US. They've been closed for several months overseas, and there doesn't really seem to be an end in sight. Disney has never dealt with anything quite this catastrophic before, and this after, years of having a winning streak, right? I don't think they know how to lose. So they're kind of panicking. They borrowed a bunch of money, and now they're going to be laying off more employees, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how, even though they're pushing their movies back, there might not be a motion picture theater industry to come back to, because it looks like AMC is going to file for bankruptcy. We don't know what's going to happen to AMC. They're coasting on fumes. Not even fumes. They have nothing in the tank at this point, and they are the largest movie theater chain in North America, I believe. So we're going to talk about that too. So before we get into it, please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 100,000 subs. Thanks for the support, and our play button's on the way. Geeky is very excited. She's not joining me on this video. She's busy redoing the bathroom. She wants to paint the bathroom, so she's painting the bathroom, and she's doing some gardening, and she's bugging me for a nail gun. So we're gonna have to buy her a nail gun. Anyway, this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. Just broke today. Furloughs hit Disney film empire amid coronavirus crisis. Now, this is just like what happened with the theme parks, where these employees will technically stay on Disney payroll throughout the duration of the furlough, but they're basically being told pencils down for their movies too. And we're going to talk a little bit about Marvel Comics too, and how I do believe Disney is going to do some brutal cutting in the very near future, and Marvel Comics might be one of the casualties of Disney's cost cutting. So here we go. Theme parks, employees are laid off. Movies, employees are laid off. Notices went out on Thursday, a week after its parent conglomerate said that those whose jobs aren't necessary at this time would be temporarily dismissed as of April 19th. Furloughs have hit Walt Disney Studios, Hollywood's sprawling movie empire. The notices, which were expected and impact an undetermined number of employees, were handed out on Thursday, sources tell the Hollywood Reporter. On April 2nd, parent company Walt Disney Company stated that employees across media and entertainment conglomerate whose jobs aren't necessary at this time will be furloughed as of April 19th. That was preceded by deep executive pay cuts disclosed on March 30th. We talked about that in relation to the theme parks, but it does extend into leadership in the film divisions too. Kathleen Kennedy is getting a pay cut, folks. Like its rivals, Disney Studios has seen much of its business come to a standstill amid unprecedented theater closures and delayed productions. In terms of furloughs, sources say the marketing and distribution departments have been especially impacted. I spent most of my career working in marketing and PR, and I can tell you, you're probably the most disposable employees the company has, because a lot of times what they'll do is they will hire people to ramp up their marketing efforts for a campaign or for a particular product, and then they'll get rid of you when they're done with you, or if they think it's cheaper just to pay an ad agency to do your job, sporadically as needed. That's usually what happens. Marketing people, frankly, aren't viewed as being very important in the grand scheme of things. I've been on the receiving end of a layoff. I thought stupidly before, I'm like, oh, I'm the only person that can do this. I'm recession proof, and that doesn't seem to be the case, because if they're going to stop spending money on advertising, they don't need you anymore. So you'll get gone. Disney's next release is Mulan on July 24th. Soul remains dated for June 19th, but is widely expected to move off of that date. Disney didn't immediately respond for comment. Of course they didn't. Disney's film stable includes Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, Disney's live action studios, Disney Animation Studios, 20th Century, no longer Fox, and Searchlight, no longer Fox. Now, animation, as I understand it, is still moving forward. A lot of those employees were told to work at home. I know there are some Disney animated TV series that people are still working at home. Thankfully, they've got the technology to be able to do that, but we're talking live action movies. And it kind of grinds to a halt, doesn't it? Impacted workers will remain Disney employees through the duration of the furlough period. They'll receive their full health care, again, just like the theme parks, plus the cost of employee and company premiums will be paid by Disney, and those enrolled in Disney Aspire will have continued access to the education program, so you can retrain for another job when Disney doesn't hire you back. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Maybe I shouldn't have. Additionally, employees with available paid time off can use some of it. And then Disney, again, is giving people the song and dance about the extra $600 a week in federal compensation. So, again, they talk about the salary cuts. They talk about the salary cuts that their VPs and their executives took, including Alan Horn, Alan Bergman. I'm sure that Kathleen Kennedy got a pay cut. And I think what's going to happen after this, I think this is phase one. I think phase one is we lay everybody off, we furlough everybody, and then we regroup later in the year or after the quarterly earnings call, and we go over that and we decide which divisions we can cut or pare back on, because I guarantee you they are going to lay off. I guarantee you they're going to divest themselves of some business divisions. They absolutely have to. Meanwhile, they're still talking about another Star Wars movie coming out in 2022. I don't think that's going to happen. Who knows? They don't even have anything planned. If it's High Republic, I don't think anybody's going to give a shit at that point. Now, where it gets tricky with Disney is, again, they're banking on Hollywood. They're banking on motion pictures. And we've been talking about AMC, how AMC is in deep, deep trouble. And now analysts are saying it's very, very likely they're going to file for bankruptcy. So AMC will now, look, somebody might buy up AMC. Maybe Netflix will buy them up and turn it into the Netflix theaters. But the movie industry is going to look very, very different on the other side of this. And absolutely AMC is going to go bankrupt. Now, people misunderstand what bankruptcy is. Bankruptcy means you're basically getting your affairs in order. You don't have to pay your bills till you get your shit together. And that's probably what they're going to do. Maybe they'll get it ready to sell or something, but I don't think people are going to be flocking back to the theaters anytime soon. Again, we talk about, what happened with the comic book industry, and there's a lot of discussion about broken habits. People get out of the habit of going to the comic shop every week or once a month or whatever. It's a very easy habit to break, especially when they can just order graphic novels or trades off of Amazon, or do mail order for back issues or digital comics or whatever. It's a very easy thing to break. And I think that's what's going to happen with movies too. People are going to be like, hey, it's pretty nice having new releases at home. It's pretty nice to just be able to watch all these movies at home. And yeah, you know what? Going to the theater was kind of a pain in the ass. Now, there is something to be said for that experience. I don't think it really can be replicated at home. But people are still going to feel that way, especially being gun shy for a very long time, I think, about going out with large crowds of people. And the same thing is going to affect Disney's theme parks too. They could open the parks back up and you're going to have the diehards go, but they're talking about having health screenings and who's going to have the money. We're talking, 10% unemployment now? And people are scared. They're not going to plunk down $5,000 to go take a trip to Disney World when half the rides are open and everybody's wearing a face mask, and it's crazy. Disney knows they're in it. We did a video last night that analysts are talking. It's going to take them 2 years to recover the theme park business. I think the damage is going to be pretty irreparable to Hollywood. At least the business model that Hollywood has been used to. These billion-dollar blockbusters in the theater. I think that's been disrupted forever. Now, this is interesting. Had a friend kick this over the other day. That Hollywood is getting scrutinized by a lot of workers because the bigwigs at the top aren't ponying up the money to bail out the workers in Hollywood. They're basically taking their money and running. Hollywood's relief efforts slow to materialize so far, and they do have a checklist of who is actually donating money to workers in Hollywood. But you look at these dollar amounts, and compared to the size of the company, it's not a whole lot of money. Netflix ponied up $100 million, Sony ponied up $100 million, Warner Media ponied up $100 million, and then we've got a couple of million here and there. But for Hollywood, that's not a whole lot of money, and it kind of shows where the grunts working in Hollywood really stand. And it's so funny because we talked about comics, and we talked about, I think it was Donny Cates who writes Venom for Marvel, and he was talking about how Hollywood should bail out the comic book industry. Hollywood's not even bailing out its own people. Hollywood's not going to do jack shit for the comic book industry, okay? They really don't care. Right now, Hollywood is trying to save its own ass, and Hollywood is looking at the government to bail them out, but it's not really working very well, you know. And you look at some of the bigwigs in Hollywood. They talk about billionaires like Charles Cohen and Sam Gores are among the many moguls who have made cuts to their firms. Cohen furloughed a third of his 18 staff members in his production company while slashing the salaries of those remaining. That's what Disney did. Gores temporarily laid off up to 200 employees from Paradigm, prompting a lawsuit. David Geffen, you know David Geffen, record guy. David Geffen, one of Hollywood's biggest donors to the medical community, has publicly been absent from the fundraising efforts and instead took heat for an Instagram post musing about self-isolating in the Caribbean on board his $590 million super yacht. You know, people are like, isn't this the time you actively say we're going to do the right thing to sustain the livelihoods of the people who work for you? No. Listen to Ricky Gervais. Hollywood doesn't care. Hollywood really doesn't care. They put on a big show, but they really don't care. If you have 100, 200, 300, 400 million, why don't you actively contribute to the funds that are helping below the line people who made those movies that made you rich? Because they don't. They don't. They're not going to. Hollywood is going to save itself. The big wigs are going to save themselves, and they're sure as hell not going to give any money to comic book people. They're not. You know, speaking of that, I really do think that this could be endgame for Marvel Comics as a comic book publisher. I've been hearing rumors for quite some time that Disney was looking at other options to, you know, for its comic book publishing endeavors, because Marvel is kind of unique in the fact that all the other Disney IP, they outsource that. They license those books to a variety of publishers around the world, but Marvel, since they bought a publisher, they've continued to publish their own books. This is not ideal, as I understand it, from people within Disney, and they've been kind of testing the waters to see if they could publish superheroes elsewhere. And you saw what they did with IDW. They had, Spider-Man and Captain America books over IDW, but IDW is a dumpster fire right now, and they're probably not going to get back up from the coronavirus shutdown because they had major financial problems before. But I have to wonder again, if Disney's got to make cuts, and it's going to be real easy, if it comes down to saving Marvel Studios, the movie studio, or saving Marvel Comics, they're going to pick the studio every time. Marvel Comics may not be getting back up from this. So that's going to be interesting. What else is going to be interesting, I think, is Lucasfilm. There's a lot of dead weight over at Lucasfilm. Maybe we'll see cutbacks over there. I don't know. And look, I'm not trying to gloat about this. There are some people who are going to be hit really hard. It's really unfortunate, but you know, Disney in this case, they got too big for their britches, their little red Mickey britches, and they've got a lot of people, a lot of mouths they got to feed. And I think they're going to take a look at the situation after the dust settles and be like, do we really need to own all this stuff? Because when you own so much stuff, you've got to take care of it. You've got to feed the people working on it, maintaining it. And in Disney, they might streamline after this. They might have to. They might not have a choice. And they're probably in a better position than a lot of players in Hollywood because of, you know, the size of the studio. But Hollywood is not going to look the same, guys. We've been saying it. Everybody seems to think that everything's going to go back to normal, and we're going to see major disruption for years. I think, in the industry. I mean, we may see some permanent upheaval in how Hollywood produces and distributes content. We may see some studios shut down completely. It's going to be a crazy time for sure. Right now, everybody's focused on taking care of themselves, taking care of their families. That's what I think everybody needs to be focused on. And, good luck to all of you out there. We'll talk later. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.